Can we talk some quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, and O-line? I'm sure all of you have discussed it at some point with your friends if you're Florida State fans, and Ward only knows the Noles need it. I have adjusted a little bit with what I think Florida State's going to do, and I've also got a little bit of insight on at least one of the players. Let's start with the offensive line just because it's fresh on my mind right now. And Herb Hand, somebody I've mentioned, he was recently hired. He's worked with Gus. This will be the fourth place. Tulsa, obviously worked with Mike there too. He's worked at Auburn. He's worked at UCF, and now it will be Florida State. So that's four. He's a tremendous offensive line coach. Caden Kittler, a kid that UCF recruited out of the Dallas area, really good football player, was the center for UCF. He's going to visit FSU. I think that's a player now that he's got a year of experience. He's going to be a redshirt junior this next fall. He could be a 2-year starter for you at center. It's perfect. That would be a huge addition. I think, as I've stated numerous times, they need at least 4 O-linemen in this portal class. Kittler would be a great start. Now, they've got other guys that they're going to talk about and they could possibly get. There's Patrick Kutas, the offensive guard, who's originally out of the Memphis area. Mike probably knows him. He's a kid that's a really good football player, started at Arkansas. He's in the portal. Derek Simmons is going to visit. He's 325 pounds. He played at Western Carolina. He's an offensive lineman. He can play guard or tackle. I think they hope he can play tackle. He's going to visit one of the higher rated guys. So if you can get, say, 2 out of those 3, and it sounds like, to me, I haven't heard anything other. Jalen Early's going to stick around. Andre Otto, Lucas Simmons. If they can get some development, the O-line could be a little bit better than I thought, but getting Hand is huge because Kittler, there's another one of the offensive linemen I don't know as much about from UCF that's going to visit. They could wrap it up a little quicker than I thought. Now, I'm not saying they won't need the spring portal to finish O-line recruiting. They probably will, but 4 is the minimum number. The way Gus talked about it, I think 6 is the more realistic number because they might take a developmental guy from another program. Don't look at it as the total number for offensive linemen just in the sense of, okay, we need 6 impact guys. That's not realistic. Let me talk about that for a second. I forget what the kid's name is, but the offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, somebody mentioned he's arguably the best tackle in the portal. Okay. I don't know a lot about Virginia Tech. I don't really watch them much, but they were saying over $1 million a year because he can play left. Look, Florida State's not in a position to pay that. They need numbers, and they're not a national title team next year. They're not going to go after that kid, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt that's going to be their path. Secondarily, the numbers part, you've got to be able to spread some of that money to develop your kids. Gus talked about it a little bit during the press conference. You want to do mostly through the high school, then the portal fills in holes. 100% agree. Well, Florida State, he also admitted, is not in that position right now because the season they're coming off of, they had several guys that were done eligibility-wise after this season. And a few guys are in the portal or maybe. I'm not sure if he was hinting or not. I really couldn't tell, but it wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 more guys that are underclassmen left Florida State. That's just part of the deal. If Florida State is going to be successful, they got to spread some of that out. We'll see how it goes. But let's look at it this way. If they take 6 O-linemen, 4 of them, I think, need to be able to at least compete for a starting position this next fall. 1, perhaps 2, or like redshirt freshmen, they redshirted this year and picked a school and they're coming to Florida State, or they're going to be a redshirt sophomore and they played a little bit, played at Memphis, played at Purdue, played at USC, whatever. Have at least a little experience in some capacity in college football, but maybe not a lot of actual snaps in live competition. So I think they'll end up with 6. Originally, I thought 4 would be a possible number, but if looking at it more, I was wrong. I think 6 is, it's not out of the question 7 because it depends on how many developmental guys you want to take. So take it for what it's worth. Next, quarterback. Florida State is hosting Thomas Castellanos. That's probably where Gus Malzahn, as I do this podcast, is right now, is with Thomas. I expect him to commit to Florida State in short order. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I can tell you right now, Florida State is in a scenario where they need at least 1 and probably 2 quarterbacks. It sounds like Brock Glenn's going to stick around. I don't know. But if he does, so be it. That would be good to have some stability. He is a mobile quarterback that can run Gus's offense. But they also need to have another experienced guy. That way, that Sperry doesn't have to come in and worry about playing. His red shirts, learns the system, and moves along. And by the way, he's a very good fit for what Gus does. I think that Florida State needs two. Castellanos is one. Can they find a guy from the MAC or from some of the other conferences that maybe a guy wants to have the chance to at least be on a team that's at the Power Four? That's my guess because, again, money's part of this. Let's not kid ourselves. And secondarily, you're not going to get lucky to get like Caden Salter and Thomas Castellanos. It's not going to happen. I know some people talk, well, no, that's not realistic. A, it's the money, and B, they both want to start. It's not very realistic. Let's move to running back. Because of getting Chroma, Florida State probably doesn't necessarily need a running back, but I could see them taking a fullback H-back type because Gus does that quite a bit. There's a kid from UCF, Pittman, who originally committed to the Noles and is from Panama City. That could be a possibility. He's in the portal. They also probably need an inline blocking tight end. You can always move them to the backfield too. They're not traditional running backs, but that's a way to look at it. The only other way I see them taking a running back in the portal, the more I look at it, is if it's a special player in the sense of true speed and being able to play in the slot some, especially if it's a younger guy. Remember, Jalen Lucas was injured this past season. He's that guy right now, but we don't know what his situation is. He had a season-ending injury pretty early in the season. Hopefully he's good to go, but Gus really likes speed. He likes running reverses and screens a lot. I'm telling you, Jalen Lucas is a great example of somebody he could use. That might be a situation where Florida State looks at one of those guys that's a dual threat as a running back and maybe another position like slot as well. Receiver, this hasn't changed at all. My thoughts on it are still the same. They need three. One of them needs to be a really good guy. You hope you can get a number one, but how much money you're going to spend on that? Are they going to go get somebody that's going to get $1 million or more dollars? I doubt that. $500,000 guy, possibly. Let's go over a couple points here. There's two receivers in Miami of Ohio, one of which averaged 19.9 yards a catch. Somebody like that's good because he's a 6'4" guy that can run. If you're 6'4" and you average over 19 yards a catch, I do not care what league you are in. That's good. And Norvell really does covet bigger receivers, but he does need to find a few more shifty guys. Javon Boggs helps. They got a big kid out of the transfer portal that's transferring, out of the junior college ranks that's transferring in. That's good. But you need another shifty guy that's got some experience. Again, Lucas is not healthy, and you lost Shakai Douglas. His eligibility is up. I would have loved to have seen him in Malzahn's offense. But Florida State is not in a great scenario right now, in my opinion, when it comes to the slot, because Destin Hill is transferred. I haven't talked about that on this show. I wanted to see if that would stick, but he has left the program. Who's going to be your key slot? Are they going to move somebody like Hakeem inside? Maybe Jaylen Brown moves inside. He's got the speed that Gus loves. I'm sure he's going to try to work with him. But you need to figure that slot position out. So 3, I'd love to see a number 1, at least somebody kind of close to it. But let's see what happens with that. And some versatility with a guy that can make you miss. It's really athletic that can play slot. Finally, let's talk about tight end. This is a position where it is unique. As I mentioned with the running back, it depends on how you want to label it. Like Pittman could play running back. He's athletic. But he's 6'1", 6'2", catches the football well and can be a lead blocker. And as Gus likes to call it, play him in the hip at the tackle or the tight end. A lot of 12 personnel with them. I think they're going to be similar, but it depends on how the portal works out at receiver. So do they need another inline blocking tight end? Yes, they do. That's one. If you want to count Pittman as an H-back / tight end, that's fine. You want to count him as a running back, that's fine. Or somebody similar, that's your own business. I don't really care. It's a little of both. Pittman's so athletic. He's just a football player. He can play linebacker for you, running back, tight end, whatever. But I also think Florida State has to remember Amari and Landon. That is a really special combination. They just need to be able to use them out wide as much as possible to put safeties and linebackers in really bad spots. And even if you play them all the way out wide, do they move a linebacker out that far from the line of scrimmage? And the football itself at the snap, not many guys are going to run with Landon Thomas detached that far from the tackle. Florida State could use a big tight end just to help block, to allow the play to develop, and the quarterback to throw a deep ball to your deep players. They're tight ends. Amari and Landon are very unique. So Florida State's offense could evolve a little bit, and that's something Norvell talked about. over time, you got to get your players in position to make plays to help maximize. He said that numerous times during his tenure at Florida State. And Norvell is not stupid. He knows Gus is going to do that too. And I've covered Gus enough to know that he's that way. When he had a kid that got hot, he'd feed him. So if Landon gets hot, he might put him out wide. He might put him in the backfield, do different things. And if it's Jaylen Brown, same deal. They'll move guys around. So the portal just needs to be supplemented. You got to have more guys up front. That's the key. The tight end and O-line position, the blocking and how they use formations will be key. I'm curious to see who they go after for the inline tight end. They've always had a power blocker. When he was at Auburn, when he was at UCF, he was a good run blocker, but they could really beat you in the goal line in short yardage too. So that's a possibility. With that being stated, thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. If you have not already, please hit the like button, that notification bell, and above all else, subscribe. I truly appreciate it. And if all possible, I'd love you to share this podcast so I can get in front of more Florida State fans. It's been a lot of fun covering it here recently. We got a whole bunch more news, I think, is coming in the very near future. So keep it locked right here to Locked On Seminoles and have some fun. Last thing, if you want to keep up with the news, all the things on the portal, FB Scout _Florida. That's FB Scout _Florida on X. There is a lot of news that I'm commenting on. Portal players like Mississippi State quarterback, they just lost him. That's terrible for their program. You can check that out because there's plenty of Florida State stuff too. Everybody have a good one, and I will see you again tomorrow.